lesson is on adding and subtracting like fractions. So in order to add and subtract fractions, the numerators, you can, when you have that same number as the 5's here, your denominator stays, and you add your numerators, 1 plus 3, giving us 4. Same with subtraction. Denominator same, and we have 7 take away 3, giving us 4. So 4/8 would reduce to 1/2. So like denominators, go over your numerators over your denominator. So example here, we have 3/16 plus a negative 15/16. Well, here's my like denominator, 16, and I have 3 plus the negative 15. So there's my like denominator. I go ahead and solve my numerator, which I get 12, or my denominator of 16. The denominator stays the same. This fraction would not be done. We'd need to go ahead and reduce. Well, if 4 can go to each over 4, our fraction is negative 3/4 reduced. Example 2, like denominator is 9. We have a numerator of 2. Again, carry out your operations. We have 2 plus 9 giving us negative 6. 9 fraction. This fraction can be reduced. 3 can go through numerator and denominator. That's negative 2/3. Here's a subtraction fractions. Again, subtracting doesn't make a difference. We have the like denominator. We have a negative 7/10, so negative 7 minus 9/10, so minus 9. Carry out your operation. Negative 7 minus 9 is negative 16 over 10. This fraction again can be reduced. It's even, so we know a 2 can go into both your numerator and denominator. 2 goes into 16 8 times, so we'll get a negative 8 over 2 can go into 10 5 times. We come up with a negative 8/5. Next one, subtraction again, like denominator, 8. We have negative 7 minus 5. Negative 7 minus 5 is negative 12 over 8. Looking at our fraction here, a 4 can go into both your numerator and denominator. 4 goes into negative 12 negative 3 times, and 8 divided by 4 is going to give us 2, so negative 3/2. Next problem, we have actually a mixed number here. So we have 2 5/8 plus 6 1/8, and we need to write it in simplest form. 2 ways you can go about this. One way, and actually I think the best way, is to go ahead and add your whole numbers together. So group your whole numbers. So here's my whole numbers. My whole numbers I would group together would be 2, and then it's plus the 6. Then I can go ahead and write my denominator. Well, my denominator is 8, so then I have a positive 5 and a positive 1, so 5 plus 1. 2 plus 6 is going to give us 8 for our whole number. 5 plus 1 is 6 over 8, so we have 8 6/8. This needs to be reduced. In your numerator and denominator, 2 can go into both of them, so we'd wind up still with 8 as our whole number. 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 8 4 times, so our fraction would be 8 3/4. Second example, again, go ahead, break it up. Our whole numbers here, we have a positive 3 plus 4 for our whole numbers. Denominator, we have 10. Numerator, a 3 plus 1. So you'd go ahead and solve. We'd have 3 plus 4 is going to give us 7. Our numerators, add them together, we get 4 over 10. We need to reduce here. A 2 can go into our numerator, a 2 can go in the denominator, and we'd wind with 7 2/5. Mixed numbers with different signs. Okay, here's a different technique that we may need to take on here. If we look at this problem here, we have 64 basically taking away 53. we can do that operation. Where we run into problem is with our fraction. There's 1/5, here's 4/5. You're not able to take 4/5 from 1/5. So what you need to do is borrow. And here's how you would borrow. You're going to borrow from your whole number. This is no longer 64. It becomes 63. When you borrow, you're borrowing a portion from the denominator. So you are actually borrowing a 5 from your denominator. This was a 1. It is now going to be, since you're borrowing 5, 1 plus the 5 would give us 6/5. Okay? If you think about it, the 6/5 here, that would go to 1 and 1/5, right? Well, the 1 would come back here, making it 64, and then you'd have your 1/5. So what you're doing here is you're borrowing. And you borrow from the denominator, given that whole number there. So 63 and 6/5. Subtract 53 and 4/5. Same technique once you use your borrowing here as you did in the previous step. So deal with your whole numbers here first. Whole numbers. And you have 63, right? Take away 53. Your fraction, bar, well, your denominator is 5. And then we have our numerators up here. So we have 6, take away, there's the minus sign right there, 6 take away 4. Now you can go ahead and do your operation here. 63 take away 53 is 10. 6 take away 4 is 2. Denominator stays the same. 10 and 2/5. That is one way to go ahead and tackle this. Another way that we can do this is actually do some converting. Okay, when you convert 64 and 1/5, 64 and 1/5 is going to come up with 321/5 as an improper fraction. That's what we talked about yesterday, making that an improper fraction. Remember, in order to make it improper, this is what we would do looking at 64 and 1/5. Multiply denominator times whole number, add the numerator, and we get 321/5 minus 53 and 4/5, which would convert to 269/5. Now when you have this, you already have your denominator of 5. So then you can take 321 minus 269 and you wind up with 52/5. Okay, that's improper. When you convert 52/5, it would convert into 10 and 2/5 as a mixed number. So two ways you can kind of tackle the problem. In example 2, you can decide which avenue you want to take. I personally am going to go ahead and use the borrow technique. So I know I have to borrow here because this is a positive 1/8, and I'm going to add a negative. When I add a negative, essentially what you're doing is subtracting. So I'm subtracting 5/8. I know 5/8 is larger than 1/8, therefore I would have to borrow. So here's my borrowing again. This is no longer an 8, it becomes a 7. When I borrow here, I borrow and I'm gaining another 8. Because I'm gaining from my denominator. So this is no longer 1. It is now going to be 9. So I would have 7 and 9/8. The 1 plus 8 is going to give me 9. Plus, and we have negative 6 and 5/8. Again, deal with your whole numbers. My whole numbers, I have 7 plus a negative 6, so plus a negative 6. There's my whole numbers. My denominator, 8, stays the same. I deal with my numerators. I have a positive 9 plus a negative 5. And when I take that on here, I go ahead and 7 plus a negative 6 is 1. 9 plus a negative 5 is going to give us 4, and that is out of 8, which would convert to 1 1/2 when you reduce. Again, if you don't like that technique, you can always go back to converting them into an improper fraction here. I just want to show you that I can convert this to improper. So multiply, add. When I get that, I'll get 65/8 plus, convert again, remember, you see it's negative, slide that negative out, and I'll get 53/8. 65 plus a negative 53, I'll get 12/8, and 12/8 can be reduced. A 4 can go into both of them, leaving me with 3/2. Well, when you convert 3/2, it converts to 1 1/2. So again, either technique that you want to use, you convert into improper, or you can go ahead and leave that the same. This concludes addition and subtraction of like fractions.